Hi all, I am Avani, currently pursuing Master of Social Work from Rgniyd National Institute of Youth Development, Sri Perumbudur. Today, here I am going to discuss about an organization named Prajwala. Prajwala is a pioneering anti-trafficking organization working on the issue of sex trafficking and sex crime. Which was established in the year 1996 in South India, and Prajwala has a pan-Indian level of operations now and also in international. And Prajwala works on the 5 pillars of prevention, protection, rescue, rehabilitation, and reintegration. As one of the most powerful voices advocating nationally and globally for the victim-centered services, Prajwala in its 25 years of existence has assisted police in rescuing over 24,000 of women and girls from sex slavery and sex crimes and facilitating their journey for recovery. The founder of this organization is Ms. Sunitha Krishnan. She is one of India's most passionate human activist who has committed her life to end the sex slavery globally and working as a full-time volunteer for this mission. Sunitha is the brain behind Prajwala evolution, and for the last 2 decades her contribution to the human trafficking sector has gained a national and international attention. So as a founding Chief Functionary and General Secretary of Prajwala, she is responsible for the strategic planning of all the intervention that taken by this organization. And Sunitha Krishnan is the head of all Prajwala operations and continue to expand its interventions. Sunitha is an advisor to several state government to develop a holistic victim services and also plays an important role in the international ministerial committee at the national level to draft a comprehensive legislation on human trafficking. And she was honored with the 4th highest civilian honor Padma Shri in the year 2016, and Sunitha was also declared the Talba Global Leader of the year 2016. So this is an image of medical support, psychological support and legal support that is given by the organization to the women and the girls, those who are undergone trafficking. So by their finding, in India, almost 18 million women and children are involved in sexual slavery in India, and also about 2 lakh women and children are forced into prostitution through threats and coercion each year. 65,000 children below the age of 16 are trafficked each year, and some of them are young as 5 years. And 90% of trafficking in India happens between interstate, and only 10% of the trafficking is international. So here I would like to explain the term trafficking. Trafficking for commercial sexual exploitation is the worst form of sexual slavery. So it is an organized crime that exploits human vulnerabilities, and for decades the most vulnerable to be trafficked were the economically and socially disadvantaged. But with proliferation of the internet, even economically privileged section of the society who are emotionally vulnerable have been trapped into situation of exploitation. So hundreds and thousands of women and children have been deceived, coerced or manipulated by fraudulent means and forced into sex slavery. So it is hard to enumerate the number of victims, but it is roughly estimated that 3 million women and children are trafficked for the purpose of commercial sexual exploitation, and 45% of them are children. How this vulnerable situation leading to a trafficking? And most victims would have forced one or more optional situation listed, like I'm going to say, before they are spotted by a trafficker. And based on the internal analysis of thousands of tracking persons who are admitted to this organization, a common factor that emerges is that a non-person who starts the chain of trafficking. So there can be a minimum of 7 steps that a woman or a children can be in a trafficking. So the first one can be escaping from severe domestic violence by husband, desperate of a job to took after the dependent family, desperate for emotional security and escape from current family situation, desperate for material luxuries and social life, or social status, and aspirations for fame and glamour, sudden poverty due to natural disaster, uprootedness due to political and economic crisis. So this is an industry. So sex trafficking is the third largest organized crime in the world after drugs and arms. So there are several actors who participate in the crime in various capacities to drive the industry. Although there are bigger masters who rule the entire network and some of the key players at the lower level which the victim can point out, and their roles are mentioned in line. So the first one is the spotters. The mostly somebody from the community, example shopkeepers, marriage brokers, caretakers of religious places or auto drivers. And next one are procurers. Somebody known to the victim, a neighborhood, a friend or relative or an acquaintance. Next one is the transporters, cab drivers, auto drivers or other who ensure that the victim reaches the brothel without raising any suspicion. And next one is the organizer, the middleman or the woman who buy the victim and sell to various brothels. And brothel owner, next one. So the mostly women who run the day-to-day functioning of the brothel, next to the brokers or to the pimps, and mostly men who solicit clients and responsible for price fixing and financial deal, and at last to the client customer, that may be that mostly be the male sex buyers. So the journey of Prajwala was started in, as I mentioned, in the year 1996. It was a case in Hyderabad, an old red light area, Mehboob Ki Mehendi, located behind a High Court of Andhra Pradesh, and was evicted through a court order. And hundreds of women in prostitution were rendered homeless and optionless. And Prajwala was born as a small initiative to prevent intergenerational prostitution, and first transition center or learning center established with 5 children in a vacated brothel at Mehboob Ki Mehendi. So as I mentioned in the beginning, the main 5 pillars are there for Prajwala. One among them is prevention. So trafficking for commercial sex exploitation is a most dehumanizing trade. A victim in flesh trade is subjected to innumerable physical, sexual, psychological torture which leaves irreversible scars in the mind. So no human person deserves to be forced into such a situation that destroys her or his dignity and damage that sets for a lifetime. So all efforts therefore need to be broken to prevent such situation. So in the anti-trafficking sector, preventive interventions largely focus on second generation and the community at the large. And Prajwala has initiated programs to target both of the groups. And it provides value-based holistic education for the children and vulnerable to be included into prostitution, and provide counseling at children at risk and give opportunity for overall personality development and dignified livelihood options. And so prevention can be happen two ways, that prevention through education programs and community based prevention programs. So prevention through education programs are, like I said earlier, it's through holistic education for children vulnerable to the included into prostitution, and providing counseling to children at the risk and giving opportunity for their overall personality development. And prevention through community-based program is to empower women and vulnerable girls with the knowledge of trafficking and tactics used by the traffickers to prevent them from being trafficked, to awaken community on the conscious of trafficking and generate support to curb trafficking in the region, to awake men to come outcome of trafficking on women and generate support from them to curb demand of the paid sex. The next one is rescue. Rescue is the right of every victim, and it is a paramount duty of both state and non-state partners to strive towards removing every victim from place of exploitation. Unfortunately, only 7% of victims get ever rescued. So more than 93% of victims are continued to languish in slavery-like conditions for years and together, and die succumbing to various diseases. The next is rehabilitation. Rehabilitation, like Victims of this sex trafficking who are subjected to sexual violation go through a irreversible psychological damage and are vulnerable to be infected by a range of sexually transmitted infections. So most often the issue of reintegration with the family become a distinct reality, as families are reluctant to accept responsibility for the victim's upbringing, fearing negative social impact, or many times it is difficult to reunite the victim with the family, as they might be trafficking by themselves. So this aspect combined with HIV or AIDS completes the cycle of rejection. And rehabilitation is a sum total of multiple process, including psychological healing, economic empowerment, and even by giving a civic identity. Next is reintegration. So social reintegration is the ultimate aim of all rehabilitation programs, and preparations for it built to entire level itself, with every step moving towards preparing the survivor for a life outside. And reintegration consists of the survivors being able to live in a mainstream world with the dignity, and most victims who have come to Prajwala for support and survivors today living in adjusting in the normal mainstream society. So many girls have found partners for themselves, many are living on their own, and somehow some have been effectively reunited with their families. So the process of reintegration is a long and tedious one and filled with a lot of difficulties. Sometimes in spite of all the efforts, there have been instances of re-trafficking, and strategies of reintegration have ever evolving, and today the organization has a better success rate than the 2 decades back. So Prajwala has explored 3 primary forms of reintegration, like family reunion, marriage, and independent living. These all about the main points on the organization Prajwala. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me. Thank you.